Welcome back for more AP Bio. This particular talk here, we're going to deal with some cell parts. And what we're going to deal with is how do parts tell you about the function of whatever those parts are a part of. There's quite a few learning objectives and some references from your book. In biology, there turn out to be some patterns that exist. They're not rules, they're not laws, but they're patterns. Among those patterns is form implies function, or structure tells you about function, or anatomy tells you about physiology, meaning how something is built has something to do with what it does. The second rule is if I increase the surface area of something, I can maximize whatever happens at that surface, or I can increase the functioning of that surface. We're going to use those in a bit. Cell theory tells us that all living things are made out of cells. And when I look at what makes up living cells, they're these biomolecules, which you were making with your model kits. The thing about these things is not a single one of them turns out to be alive. But if I combine them together, life suddenly exists, which is kind of strange. So life itself is a weird phenomenon that results from chemistry. When I look at these living things, they always have three things in common, which we pointed out before. So they have DNA, they have a plasma membrane, and they have ribosomes. The pictures never show ribosomes, although here, if you look, you see all sorts of little itty-bitty dots inside of the cells. Those would be ribosomes. The point of having that cell membrane and those things inside of the cell is so that we can keep the internal compartments, the internal composition inside of the cell different than the outside. What that does is allow for whatever conditions exist for life, so whatever parts are inside the cell that say, okay, life can exist, all the parts of the cell are going to maintain the inside so that the cell's alive. In this figure here, we call that the ECF, the ICF, or the intracellular fluid. The composition inside of the cell is going to be different than whatever is outside of the cell, which we call the ECF, or the extracellular fluid. This picture here deals with human cells, but we can do this for any cell in existence. The inside is going to be different than the outside. And when you look at these cells, prokaryotic cells only have one membrane on the outside. And what that says is they can have basically two compartments. You can have outside the cell, and you can have inside the cell, and that's it. If I look at the eukaryotic cell, it actually doesn't have those two compartments, outside and inside, because the inside space has more compartments. And those compartments turn out to have specialized functions because we can name them as subcellular organelles. And each of them will turn out to have some particular job. The catch is, all of those jobs that go on inside of the eukaryotic cell, inside of those organelles, also occur with the prokaryotic cell.